Hey, it's Matt Moscona. You found it, your home for the latest content on your favorite team, the LSU Tigers. And we're powered by BetUS. Remember, this football season, earn a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Check out BetUS in the description on this video.
This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
So Jerry Palm put out some bowl projections today. I like Jerry. I don't really care about his bowl projections. I don't really care about anybody's bowl projections. For what it's worth, it's just a conversation starter. So the quarterfinals, actually, let's go first round. So these would be the on-campus playoff games. He's got number 5, Texas, hosting number 12, Boise State, winner facing Florida State. He's got Texas A&M, number 8. How about A&M in the playoff? Hosting number 9, Penn State, with the winner getting Georgia. He's got Oregon hosting Kansas State, winner taking on Utah, who in this case would be the Big 12 champ. And then Alabama hosting Miami, with the winner getting Ohio State. So that's the playoff teams he's got there. That would be the 12 playoff teams. Okay. That A&M, I think, is probably going to catch a lot of people off guard. But he's got Texas A&M, Bama, Georgia. So he's got 4 SEC teams in. Just one guy's opinion on how the playoff may look. There's other bowl projections that are starting to come out that get updated weekly. And again, I don't really care about bowl projections. It's more just a launching point to have a conversation. This was from, I think this was Brad Crawford over at 24/7 who put out bowl projections for the SEC. For what it's worth, he's got LSU in the Gator Bowl against NC State. That'd be a real disappointment. 4 SEC teams in the playoff. He's got Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas, and Alabama as the 4 in there. I just want to point something out because we posted that graphic earlier today of the 24/7 bowl projections, and there was someone on Twitter X. I don't think he was that. I'm not poking at this guy at all. His name is Brian Day, and he said LSU should never miss a 12-team playoff. And I just want to point this out because I don't think his opinion exists in a vacuum. I think there's a lot of people, not just LSU fans, but fans of a lot of schools who think that their school should never miss a 12-team playoff. And I want to remind you that in a 12-team playoff, you have the 4 Power 4 champions that are in and get a bye, and then the G5, the highest-ranked G5, is in as well. So you get 7 at-large spots. And the point I made in a reply was that logic is going to cause an awful lot of heartbreak for fan bases that think they're just going to be, they should be in a 12-team playoff every year. Let me just illustrate LSU in the CFP era. Okay, since 2014, where LSU was in the penultimate rankings. For those that don't know, penultimate is the second to last. So the last rankings would be after all the bowl games. The penultimate rankings would be the ones that ultimately determined who was in the playoff, right? So the rankings after the conference championship weekend that determine who's in. Last year, LSU was 13th. They're out. 2022, LSU was 17th. They're out. In 2021, not ranked. 2020, not ranked. 2019, they were first. 2018, they were 11th at 9-3. So there's those weird one-off years. 2017, they were 17th. 2016, they were 20th. 2015, 20th. 2014, 23rd. All that to say that in a decade of the 4-team playoff, if it were 12, LSU would have made it twice. The Burrow team in 2019, and they would have just gotten in 2018 as the 11. because 11 would be the last at large, of course, because the G5 is guaranteed a spot, and they're always going to be the 12th team. So really, you have to be in the top 11 to guarantee yourself a spot. So in a decade, LSU would have made it twice. And that's about what LSU's been over the last 20 years, is once every half decade or so, boom, here comes the big opportunity. They won a championship in 03. They won it in 07. They played for it again in 11. Had a really good start in 15, and the wheels fell off down the stretch. Of course, then they won it in 19. And now here you are 4 years later after 19, and you think maybe this year or next, could they jump back in? We'll see. But ultimately, that's what I think a lot of people are forgetting. And then I've also heard this argument that there's no way, there's zero chance that a 10-2 SEC team is left out of the playoff. Y'all, you can think whatever you want, but I'm just here to tell you, you're not looking at context in reality. There are going to be, and by the way, that's not just SEC teams or SEC programs. The Big Ten, their teams are thinking the exact same way. Oh, you get to 10 wins, you're in. Look at last year. You had 17, I guess 18 if you want to count, 19. You had 19 double-digit win teams. Michigan, Washington, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Florida State, Oregon, Missouri, Ole Miss, Ohio State, Arizona, LSU, Penn State, Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, Louisville, SMU, Iowa, Liberty. I mean, y'all, forgive me. That was the final ranking, so that counted the bowl games. Even still, Michigan, Washington, Texas, Alabama, Florida State, Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Missouri, Penn State, Ohio, or Ole Miss, you're out of spots now. Oklahoma was 10-2, they'd have been out. Louisville was 10-3, played for their conference championship, they'd have been out. Iowa was 10-3, played for a conference championship, they'd have been out. And by the way, under this format, neither of those teams would have made their conference championship game, so they'd have been sitting on 10-2, not 10-3, so they wouldn't have a loss going into the final weekend. Point is, there ain't enough spots. If you go 10-2, you're not guaranteed a spot in this thing. Oklahoma was 10-2 last year. They were 12th. They'd have been out. In 2022, there would have only been 3 SEC teams in the field. In 2021, you had 6 Power 5 teams with 10 wins that would not have been in the playoff. Let's look at 2021 and how that looked. When you go look at the penultimate rankings in 2021, Bama, Michigan, Georgia, Cincinnati, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Baylor, Ole Miss, Oklahoma State, Michigan State, Utah. That's 11. Pitt, 11-2. BYU, 10-2. Oregon, 10-3. Iowa, 10-3. Oklahoma, 10-2. Wake Forest, 10-3. Houston, who's now a Power 5, 11-2. Y'all, there ain't enough spots. I'm telling you, you've got to recalibrate your brain. If you think your team gets to 10 wins, they're in, you're wrong. It's not to say 10 won't get you in. What I'm telling you is 10 doesn't guarantee you a spot. How your 10 looks matters. It does. We'll get right back to the video, but thrilled to let you know that this football season, we're partnered with BetUS. And if you love to sports bet like I do, you got to check out BetUS. Even if you use another app or another site right now, they're making it so worthwhile for new customers to jump aboard. Right now at BetUS, if you're a new customer, you can get a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Why wouldn't you take advantage of this offer from BetUS? Great opportunity to go look at all the futures bets maybe for the Tigers. How about this? If you go to BetUS, you can check out the SEC champion odds. Take a look at it with me right now. And we're seeing this number change a good bit for the Tigers. At BetUS right now, LSU is plus 950. Not long ago, that was plus 1,100. So that number is coming down. You want to take a futures bet, a big swing on the Tigers to win the SEC in 2024? Year 3 under BK. He's been great in the past. There's a great shot to get great value over at BetUS. So jump on to BetUS, 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Take advantage of it right now at BetUS. Great partner of ours here on AFR LSU. So let's look specifically at LSU this year. If LSU loses home games to Ole Miss and Bama, and Ole Miss, Bama, and LSU are all 10-2, guess who's not getting in the playoff at 10-2? Because if Georgia and Texas are there and Ole Miss and Bama are there, that's 4 spots right there. That's not even knowing what Missouri and Tennessee do. So, no, 10-2 isn't a lock. How your 10-2 looks is going to matter, which is why I'm going to continue to bang this drum. And this is why in 2 years, ultimately my opinion is that G5 auto bid is going away. If you missed it in hour 1, Ross Dellinger was here. And Ross has a great piece up right now about how the G5 are fretting right now. The powers that be in the group of 5 are fretting because they don't feel like this is going to be stable. I'm paraphrasing. It's a long piece. I'd recommend you go read it at Yahoo. Ross did a great job. Ross is good at what he does. But ultimately, the G5 are thinking their guaranteed spot is only good for 2 years. Because to make changes to the current format over the next 2 years, you would have to have a unanimous vote. And the G5 leagues aren't going to vote themselves out. But in 2 years, in 2 years, they're not going to have their weight to throw around in that vote. So if the Power 4 says, we're not guaranteeing you a spot anymore, guess what? They're out. And I think that's going to happen. We just saw it with Liberty last year. Liberty got in the New Year's 6. They go play Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl. What was the final that score? What was the final? 42-6? Something like, what was the final?
45-6.
45-6. How in the world are you going to justify 3, 4, 5, 6 Power 4 teams, SEC teams? Let a 10-2 LSU, watch this scenario. Let LSU go 10-2, lose at home to Ole Miss and Bama. Those are your 2 losses to playoff teams. Let that happen. And LSU's 10-2, and they're ranked 12th. And they don't get in because a G5 has an auto bid. And so you get to go watch Boise State get the holy hell beaten out of them on Georgia's campus, or wherever it would be, the number 5 seed, whoever the 5 would be. Take your pick. How's that going to go over? You want to talk about wailing and gnashing of teeth? There it is. You got another power team where you lose a head-to-head? Like, let's say it comes down to LSU, Ole Miss, 11-12, and Ole Miss has a head-to-head in Baton Rouge. Okay, you can live with that result. You don't have to be happy about what played out, but you can understand why the committee would vote that way. What you can't stomach is you go 10-2 and you miss a playoff spot because you're handing one to a G5 just because. Y'all, I can go all day long. By the way, you remember 2019? Pretty good year for LSU, right? LSU won the national championship. You know who was ranked 13th in the penultimate rankings? You want to guess? Either of you? You want to guess? Muse? Number 13 in the penultimate rankings. So these would have been the rankings that would have set the playoff. Who's ranked 13th?
Oh, man. Oklahoma?
It was Alabama.
Oh.
You know what Alabama's record was?
10-2.
10-2. 10-2 Alabama would have been on the outside looking in. If you think just because you're 10-2 in the SEC you're in, history shows you ain't. And I don't think a committee of a bunch of self-important dorks in a hotel ballroom in suburban Dallas, all representing different interests, are going to be jacked about ushering in 4, 5, 6 SEC teams. What?
I said Oklahoma. LSU stomped Oklahoma in the semifinal. That was just me realizing that was a horrible guess.
Doesn't matter. I put you on the spot. It was just for effect. I'm not holding that against you. The point being, you can have this feel like, 10-2 getting you in every time. No, it's not. History is an indicator. It shows you it's not. How your 10-2 looks, or get to 11-1. I'm going to tell you another scenario. You ready for this one? How about this?
Hit me with it.
Let's say you go to the conference championship game and lose. Because I'd rather this. You go to a conference championship game, you win it, you get a bye, right? Top four get a bye. It's a good scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Or you go 10-2, you don't make it to your conference championship game, you get a bye. And then you get a home game in the playoff. The worst scenario possible is making it to your league championship game and losing, because one of two things is happening. Either you play that week, and then guess what? You're playing the next week in a playoff game. Or you play that week, lose, and you're out of the playoff altogether. Two scenarios that could unfold. Now, I don't know if you're one of the top two teams in the SEC in the regular season, if one loss in the league championship game is going to knock you out of the playoff. What it will do is not give you any time off. Because if you play in that conference championship game, then you're playing in the playoff a week later.
Yeah, I suppose, honestly, it could knock you out as well, though, if you're 10-2 going into it, which is plausible.
I don't think there's a scenario where you would have a 2-loss team in the SEC championship.
Okay, that's interesting.
Because remember, there's no divisions anymore. That's the kicker here. So like last year, you had Bama 12-1, Georgia 12-1, right? So, going into the SEC championship game, Georgia was 12-0, Bama was 11-1. So even if Bama lost, they would have been 11-2. They're still in at 11 wins with a loss to Georgia in the conference championship. They're still getting in. It's just a matter of where they are. But the worst scenario, not for Bama, but for any team that goes to the SEC championship game and loses, is now you had to play that weekend and you have to play the next weekend. You don't get a bye. Because even does this make sense?
It does.
If you don't play in your conference championship game, you get that Saturday off.
No, for sure. I understand that. I don't know. I'm not as sold as you that there couldn't ever be a 2-loss team again in the championship. I think you could see like an 11-1, 10-2 matchup for sure.
Find me.
You get a really strong year in the league and how schedules shake out.
I don't want a hypothetical. Find me one. Take the break. And when we go in this break, go look at the history of the SEC, not the SEC championship game, because we've seen 3-loss LSU get in.
Right.
So when you go to the regular season records, who would have been the top two? Would you have a 2-loss team in the SEC championship game? I'll be interested to see how many times that's happened, because I don't know that that's a scenario we're going to see very often. Thanks so much for watching the video. Remember, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And our channel is powered by BetUS. 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits, up to $2,000. All the info and the link in the description below.